This just happened moments ago. It's a White House event where a Medal of Honor is being given out. It's a Medal of Honor ceremony. But, of course, he updated quickly the American people on Operation Epic Fury. Let's go ahead and play this bite.
Let me provide a brief update on Operation Epic Fury. Today, the United States military continues to carry out large-scale combat operations in Iran to eliminate the grave threats posed to America by this terrible terrorist regime. Following our obliteration of Iran's nuclear program in Operation Midnight Hammer a short while ago, we warned Iran not to make any attempt to rebuild at a different location because they were unable to use the ones that we so powerfully blew up. But they ignored those warnings and refused to cease their pursuit of nuclear weapons. In addition, the regime's conventional ballistic missile program was growing rapidly and dramatically, and this posed a very clear, colossal threat to America and our forces stationed overseas. The regime already had missiles capable of hitting Europe and our bases, both local and overseas, and would soon have had missiles capable of reaching our beautiful America. The purpose of this fast-growing missile program was to shield their nuclear weapon development and make it extraordinarily difficult for anyone to stop them from making these highly forbidden, by us, nuclear.
And that was President Trump just moments ago. He's still speaking right now. Again, this was at is it Medal of Honor?
It's a Medal of Honor ceremony. He's actually moved on from the Iran topic at this point. But he spoke at this ceremony, as well as Secretary of War Pete Hegseth spoke this morning. We will get into that as well. He laid out a three-part objective that the United States military is carrying out, as well as a loose timeline. I mean, obviously, you got to let them do and fight and achieve the objectives. However, what we are seeing here now also, and we will discuss, is the pushback you're seeing from the left and some within the MAGA base.
Yeah, and there were even attacks that happened in our own country that I think a lot of people missed completely. I mean, they weren't large scale, but you had multiple people die in Texas that looked to be a direct correlation. Yeah, I mean, all signs point to this was a retaliation.
That was in Austin at a bar. The guy had a shirt on that said Allah underneath that shirt, supposedly Iranian flag, and he also screamed Allah Akbar when he opened fire, injuring over a dozen people and killing two, and he was also killed as well. So remember, that's happening now on your own soil. So be vigilant. Be careful. It's under high alert.
Well, as well as they are telling people in NORCOM, which is American Northern Command, that you are not allowed to wear your uniform off base right now because you could be potentially a target. That is talking about people in the United States going to work on the base, say in any of the bases in the United States, that you do not wear it from your house to the base. You put your uniform on when you get to work, and you take it off before you go home.
This is when, like, our ACLJ work, when we exposed that there were terrorists crossing the border, and under the Biden administration, they quickly took those photos down of those guys that they apprehended. We said that the porous border was being utilized by countries like Iran and their terror proxies to get terror cells into the United States because they could blend into a Central American crowd with their beards and the kind of skin tone, and they could walk kind of right through. We know they've arrested two, even under Biden, and they took those pictures right down. We did that work at the ACLJ so that it was exposed that they knew, too, that terrorists were pouring in. So they do believe that there are, and we can talk to Mike Pompeo about that, about these cells in the United States. Can they be activated? The question is there anyone left to activate them right now? And are they willing to do it, knowing that right now there's currently not much leadership in Iran? Iran is still sending up fighter jets and missiles.
Sure, and it could be, lone people who are just infuriated by the news.
Got that issue, yes.
Because that's what this could have been in Texas. It's inspired by. It doesn't necessarily always have to be.
But he is foreign.
Or direct. Yeah, I think he'd been a naturalized citizen of America for the last 15, 20 years.
Yes.
But from Senegal, I believe. There are some phone lines open, and a lot of you are calling in. I want to take a call real quick. Let's go to John in Florida on line 2. John, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I tell you what, I'm more glad than ever I voted for Trump. Iran was like a big festering boil that had to be lanced.
Yes.
And I'm glad he did it because I tell you what, we have more people in the Middle East backing us up on this. The UAE, Egypt and Saudi Arabia than we do in the Western European allies in Europe.
Jordan, we look at this and exactly what John said. I think there are two really important things to put out here. And he's talking about the previous presidents. Yep. One, those that say that President Trump started a war, no, he's ending a war that's been going on since the Iranian Revolution. Remember, they've been killing Americans wherever they can since 1979.
Yes.
Now, that is one point, that this is hopefully an end to that war, not a beginning of a new war. Right. Two, he's talking about the Gulf states. Iran's miscalculation here, and maybe it's because of the loss of leadership initially, like the very first strike took out their supreme leader, but the recklessness that you've seen of attacking the UAE, Qatar, the Kuwait, the international airport, the main terminal in Kuwait, you're talking about Bahrain, all of these countries that are actually friendly with Iran. Many of them are not just like neutral, but friendly with Iran, and they're not attacking military installations. They were attacking with ballistic missiles civilian sites, hotels in Dubai. The commercial airport terminal at the international airport in Kuwait. That is such a big miscalculation because now you're seeing Saudi Arabia leading with these other Gulf nations saying, hey, wait a second, we're going to strike back too. What are you doing here, Iran?
Yes, I think, listen, Iran's entire miscalculation was they lost Hamas after October 7th. They lost 50% of Gaza is now not even under control of any Hamas elements. Hezbollah was decimated, and Nasrallah that taken out. And you had I think two more successors to him taken out. Hezbollah, the pagers, all of that. So they no longer had, and in Syria, because of the overthrow of the Assad government and really their own civil war that's been ongoing since the end of ISIS, they're not effective anymore for Iran. So Iran no longer had the surrounding terror groups ready to go whenever Israel would strike. We knew that when Israel took action after October 7th, and there was minimal action by those groups. Hamas did what they could with their smaller rockets, but they didn't do much. Iran fired what they could, and we're seeing that firing into Israel seems like it's gotten less and less by the day. And so the decision, though, to try and hit the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, yes, we have bases in those places, but they weren't just hitting those American bases. That is how, again, the Middle East unites around the Abraham Accords. And we can, without necessarily putting hundreds of thousands of boots on the ground, President Trump could be known as the president that did bring peace to the Middle East. It doesn't mean that everywhere is going to be perfect all the time and that it's all going to be a democratic republic, because that doesn't necessarily work in this part of the world. But what it does mean is that there are new allies. And when Israel is being fired on by the same enemy as the UAE is being fired on, and Qatar and Bahrain, and Yemen is firing, and the Houthi rebels are firing at our allies as well, this is a new alliance. And it shows, by the way, we can be allies with Israel and those other countries at the same time to take out a country and leadership, which is the terror leader of the world, Iran, and do it together without Europe.
Yeah, and in theory,
Europe looks like a joke right now. Yeah. They were condemning this, and these actions should be taken. I know the Saudis have to say one thing on TV and another thing in person. They don't want a nuclear Iran, and this is probably the end of that.
Yeah, I think that there is also, like you said, a rallying around Israel that could very well happen from these other, like you said, Western-leaning.
Certainly
Saudi Arabia and some of these, and
they want you to come.
Yeah, same with
So they needed this to happen.
Abu Dhabi and Dubai, like those are areas when you see them, they're getting hit with rockets. That is horrible for their business.
But it kind of like had to happen once.
That's what I mean.
So
yeah.
that in the future, you know that Iran is not there in that capacity anymore. They likely, if things went as well we prayed for, Iran would be a partner with those countries in Israel again.
Right, and I think that's the other trajectory looks like it could get there.
Well, and I think one thing that we do need to be clear on, too, is that this is early stages. This is just the third day of this war.
And U.S. troops have been killed.
It is easy to be triumphant when you have taken out one of the most manifest evils on the planet, the Ayatollah. Also,
it can be celebrated even without the conflict being done. Yes,
but it means that we still are not done. And the Secretary of War laid out the three objectives of this as operations are ongoing. That the objectives are destroy Iran's offensive missile capabilities, cripple its navy and prevent Tehran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. There are reports right now that Isfahan is being bombarded. That is one of the key nuclear sites. So a new wave of attacks is targeting that. That are the reports. There's a lot of other things to get into, as well as the press got an opportunity yesterday with a 3-hour phone call with the administration on background from administration officials, giving some of the details of what led to this, the reasons they believed that they were at a dead end with Iran, things like the United States offered to provide Iran with nuclear material for their civilian purposes, for what they claim they need to do medical research, for domestic energy production, things that they have never actually used their enriched uranium before for their own purposes. They normally just buy it from Russia. The United States offered to give them that nuclear fuel in perpetuity if they would give up their own centrifuges and enrichment. That was not enough for Iran. Iran was just trying to kick the can down the road and deny that they were building a nuclear weapon, when all the signs is that that's why they had the 60% uranium. They had their own centrifuges that could get it from 60 to 90 in just a matter of a week. Their entire goal was a nuclear weapon. Yeah. And we now see that when you didn't put checks on their ballistic missile program, like President Obama refused to do during the JCPOA, how much that technology has advanced in Iran as we see the missiles that they're using to strike even their friends.
Yeah, and I do want to bring that up. There's been a lot of conversations around, well, President Trump said he'd always be at the negotiation table, that this would be conversations that would happen. I do think there is such a fundamental, it's hard for us to wrap our heads around it, but we've worked in it for so long, it's a little easier for us. There is a fundamental disconnect between your values and the values that someone like the Iranian government, the Ayatollah, have. For human life, for humanity, for people in general. Those are Western values. Those are Christian values. Those are not values that find themselves native. They're not just born into us. It feels like they are sometimes, but they're not. So when you try to get to the negotiation table with people that don't value their own people, or don't value their own lives, or don't value any kind of peace, you end up with these kind of situations.